Hello, welcome, everyone coming on in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're calling from. It's great to have you here. My name is Hunter. My pronouns are he, they. I'm stoked to be here with our amazing speaker today. This is a Powerfly Chat and Learn. So before we jump in, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping, spring cleaning here in the States. You can participate. Turn your cameras on, join the fun. It's a great way for our speaker to connect with you, put a name to a face. And we will be recording this, and you will get a follow-up link in the next couple of days, so you can post it, reshare it, and you can see all the Powerfly PTF chat and learns, where that way you can share other great talks as well. So during the next hour, we would love to hear from you. So please use the chat. So you can use the chat. You can tell us where you're calling in from, things that resonate with you in the conversation, any questions that come up. We would love to hear your questions. We have pre-submitted questions that a bunch of y'all wrote in advance. So thank you. And we've set those aside. And any questions that come up during the hour, ask them early, ask them often. We would love to hear from you so we can pepper those in and get to all of them. And if you want to message me privately to ask a question anonymously, totally great. Go over to the chat section, click my name, Hunter, which I think I need to change my name, so I will do that in a second. It will say Hunter, and then you can select on my name, and then you can message me a question, and I'll ask it anonymously for you. And last but not least, follow us on all the things at Powerfly, #Powerfly, so you can tag and repost. Okay, without further ado, DreamSpring. I'm so excited to talk with this next speaker. We have such an interesting conversation, a very relevant, important conversation. So I'm just honored and grateful to be here for it. So you can check out DreamSpring's landing page at the Powerfly website, /Powerfly/company/DreamSpring. And you can see benefits, more about them, great videos on the company, and job listings as well, where you can click through and apply for jobs right there. So Toni Johnson is our speaker today. I am so honored to chat with her. With a passion for uplifting communities through economic development and racial equality, Toni first joined DreamSpring as a community lending officer in 2019. She has grown with the company to manage a team of lending supervisors and loan officers across multiple states, where she cultivates new relationships and builds strong referral networks. A small business owner herself, Toni loves to use small business loans and business coaching to create resilient business owners, provide a path to financial wellness, and fortify entrepreneurs with their goals and brand visibility. Such awesome work. Please welcome Toni Johnson. Round of applause. Hi, Toni.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon to everyone that's here joining. It's a pleasure to be on with you all, and I'm really excited about this session today.
Awesome. So, Toni, before we jump into the questions, is there anything else from your work journey, your career journey that you'd like to share with us, or anything else before we jump in?
What I will share, just being transparent, is 4 to 5 years ago, I was in a space where, a very similar space in regards to the questions that we have today, whether I should start my own business, go in deep, stay corporate in the corporate role, but I didn't have a lot of education surrounding that, and it definitely provided or presented some barriers for me. But once I was able to get in a space where I had a network of people, built relationships, I was able to see the silver lining, if you will, that there were tons and tons of information, mentorship programs, and just resources out there to kind of help you throughout the journey. And so don't be afraid of where you are. Let's just get started.
Wow. Don't be afraid of where you are. Let's get into it. Okay. So taking the leap of faith into entrepreneurship is the topic today. So our first question, Toni, to kick us off, someone asked, are you seeing an increase in the number of professionals that are transitioning from their corporate roles to entrepreneurial world? What are the main reasons driving these folks to make this professional movement?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good question, and I think we've all experienced it and seen it here lately. Just speaking in regards to the COVID pandemic and that response and that whole era, it provided a lot of fear or a lot of uncertainty for corporate roles or individuals and or business owners. And so actually, according to the Business Journal, over 35% of corporate professionals took that leap of faith in the midst of the pandemic. And, there are several factors that could have contributed, from. However, I think the COVID fear, not knowing what the next day would look like, let alone the next week, the next month. There could have been some other contributing factors, such as just wanting to take control of their lives and their finances, leaning in on the flexibility and the time that the entrepreneurial journey would, present. Some folks just want multiple streams of income. And not having all of their eggs in one basket. And then another segment of folks may just want to tap into creating that generational wealth for their families. And so a number of different reasons, but yes, there has been a significant increase in regards to professionals moving into the space of owning their own business or just that journey period.
I think that makes so much sense as we have learned we've come accustomed to what a normal job time of day looks like. And all of that went out the window over the past 3 years, especially as remote work became the norm, right? So now we have these opportunities I can do this. And if I budget my time, I might be able to budget other time as well to do other things.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Working remotely definitely sheds some light that individuals are able to balance both work and life appropriately and not skimp on the life part. You know what I mean? And be able to explore other areas of creativity and passion that they may have for certain.
Yeah. Yeah. So, friends, if this is starting to get those wheels turning, those ideas going, feel free to drop them in the chat, ask questions. We'd love to hear from you. Ask them early, ask them often, because I know at those last 5 minutes, you're all going to be like, oh, now I have a question. And I want to get to all of them. Toni wants to get to all of them. So please keep them coming, okay? So another great question we had is, from what you've seen, what are the pros and cons of business ownership versus corporate roles?
Man, really, really great question. So, of course, it really just depends on your personal preference and what you see value in or what you hold dear to you. However, generally speaking, some of the advantages in owning your own business or going down that route or that journey is just the independence, the flexibility, the ability, again, to tap into your own creativity and your own passions. And then, not to mention the potential financial gain if you're successful, right? With the corporate role, the advantages would be it's more structured, well-defined processes and protocols. Whereas in your own business, you would have to define those processes and those protocols yourself, or at least bring someone in to kind of help facilitate that. I want to talk about the disadvantages because a lot of the times we get really motivated and inspired by that idea, but it's critical that we identify what the disadvantages are as well, just to make sure that we're taking those into account. So just a statistic just to throw out here, 1 in 5 businesses will fail shortly after launching for one reason or another. I think it's primarily attributed to lack of research, lack of energy or effort, or really thoroughly defining what those goals are, what the industry is, and that market research. Another disadvantage, if you're not good at it in your personal life, just managing the cash flow of the business may prove to be difficult. There's a legal component in regards to compliance that you're now responsible for. And then the upfront investments, the costs associating to getting this idea off the ground. And then, lastly, I would say burnout. Initially, when you have this idea, right, it's like the best idea ever. And you have so much motivation, you're inspired, you're talking about it to everyone. Everybody's probably tired of hearing about it because it's your vision, not their vision, right? But after a while, that burnout will come, especially if you're putting in those long nights, those long hours, and you just want to make sure that you have a well-balanced routine and schedule to kind of avoid that. But yeah, those are some of the disadvantages and advantages in regards to business and the corporate role.
I love that. And this has gotten those folks' wheels turning. So now we got some questions coming in. This is great. Now we're starting to get into it, friends. Okay. So Gia Warren asks, I know I can run a business, but I don't know what kind. Are there tools I can use to help me determine what kind of business to start?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this question definitely comes up pretty frequently and often as I participate on panels and I speak with clients that have the motivation, the tenacity, the drive. They just don't know where to start. I think you should do some type of self-inventory. What are your strengths? What are your skills that you yourself possess? And can you parlay that into income? And that's where I would start. And then I would go in and do some additional research in regards to industries that are leading the charge. Is there a slice of the pie that you could kind of wiggle in on, especially if it speaks to or if it aligns with your goals or your passions as well? And so I think to help flesh that out would definitely take some personal time just to kind of sit with your pen and your pad and do some brainstorming, or you can bring someone in to kind of help get the juices flowing, if you will, a mentor of some sort rather, to kind of help you flesh out those ideas. And then once you're able to kind of understand the research, the numbers, the statistics, the failures, it'll give you better direction in terms of which route to go.
I love that. So good in there. A practical question, which I've thought about myself, actually. Ashley asks, thoughts on S Corp versus LLCs? Now we're getting to some details here, but maybe we're jumping the gun a little bit, but it's an interesting question of like when you're starting your own business.
Right. And so what I will say to that, because I'm not an expert in that legal arena where it comes to entity types and those, but what I will say is that you want to research what each of those entities mean and see how you would fall in alignment. Essentially, you want to remove yourself from any personal liability, right? But it is beneficial to bring someone in, such as a mentor, to kind of help you flesh those things out, maybe some type of corporate or small business attorney that you can meet with, maybe find someone that'll do a free 30-minute consulting type of session, just to help you gain more clarity and understanding as to where your business will align with those particular entity types.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it really depends on the size of your business, the projected income, they fall into different tax brackets. So it depends on how large your team is, so there's a lot of factors. It really varies from individual to company, right?
Absolutely.
And it changes every year, friends. So if you're thinking about it this year and then next year, you're like, oh, LLC was really great last year. Do your research again, because the tax codes are always like, you got to stay current with that stuff is my
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Love all these questions, friends. This is great. We're 15 minutes in. We got 45 minutes left. Keep those questions burning. We love it. Okay. Someone asked, before taking the leap to walk away from corporate, what factors should one evaluate? What's the ideal, when's the ideal time to start a business?
Another great question. So I think determining when a good time to take that leap is really solely based on your circumstances. There are a few things that you want to make sure that you have under your belt before you consider, though. You need to do a self-evaluation, right? Evaluate your savings plan. Most experts would suggest that you have at least 6 months of savings, if not more, the better, right? You also want to have a tested, tried, and true formula or some type of business model that has yielded favorable results. Once you have a tried and tested and true formula, all you'll need to do is rinse and repeat, right? Rinse and repeat. You want to make sure that you have a solid reoccurring customer base, like you're really tapped in with your customers, you're providing the utmost robust type of technical assistance and client service that you can, that will make those clients or customers want to return back to you just because of the way that you treated them, right? And then you want to make sure that you have a transitioning plan, a plan A, but I'll also say have a plan B and a plan C, just to make sure that you're completely fortified when it comes to the transitioning factor. Another thing that I would suggest that I speak about with some of my clients in regards to their business is having a SWOT analysis, right? For your business or that industry, because again, research, it's really important. The SWOT is just an acronym for strengths, understanding and analyzing what strengths that business or industry may have, the weaknesses, the opportunities, as well as the threats.
I love that. Strength, weaknesses. What was the A?
Opportunities and threats for the SWOT analysis. SWOT, that's it.
I thought it was like SWAT. It's SWAT.
It's SWOT, yeah.
I'm very British all of a sudden. It's swatting. Yeah. I love that. Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and
threats.
And threats.
And threats. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of the times when we're so excited about the business idea and just all of the endless possibilities of everything going right, you don't want to be one of those folks who, you know, shy away from the potential threats. You want to make sure that you have a game plan for any and every risk that may present itself in the future, as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we got a great question from the chat. That's for you specifically. What is the most exciting thing about being an entrepreneur? And do you have any books or readings that on this topic that you would recommend?
Ooh, for me, the most exciting thing for me is just being able to tap into my my space, my creative place where I could go. Like, when you know that you could do it without receiving a dime and you're helping someone to facilitate their problems, issues, or helping them out, it really brings a lot of pleasure for me. And so in regards to any literature that's helped me along the way, there are countless articles and books that I've read, but you know, I like the more personal development side of that type of reading or genre. The Four Agreements, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What's a good another one? The Richest Man in Babylon. From Good to Great. Crucial Conversations, which is a really, really hot topic book in our organization. We lean on those things because as you're bettering yourself on a personal side, I like to think that you can't help but allow that to translate into the professional side or the entrepreneurial journey as well.
Yes, you are, I think, the third time I've heard crucial conversations this week. So that one's on my top of my list now. Okay, got it.
It's a
Cool.
good read.
Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, friends, these are great. We got all these questions coming in. This is so awesome. Someone asked, how should we go about evaluating business opportunities? What should indicate to us it's a healthy financial opportunity?
Let's see. So, evaluating business opportunities and healthy indicators. First, I think I spoke to this in one of our previous questions, but I would start with a self-analysis to evaluate your own talents and your own skills, right? But then you also want to evaluate areas of opportunity, right? And have some self-accountability. The reason I say that is if, for instance, if you're struggling with time management on a personal level, that's going to translate on the business side as well. And it will present itself within your business. If you are struggling with budgeting, that's something that you would probably want to get a hold of prior to stepping out. You want to make sure that you feel completely comfortable, or at least get to a place where you're okay with networking because you want to build relationships. That's another key. Another healthy indicator would be doing, of course, additional market research, understanding trends, understanding what the current client buying patterns are, risk assessments such as appraisals for that particular business or the industry. You want to size up the competition. You want to understand them in and out. What has been successful for them? What has failed for them, and why? And have they been able to pivot from that? What tactics did they use to pivot from those particular failures? And then you also want to just have the support of like-minded individuals. You want to keep a close-knit circle, right? In regards to folks that are on your level when it comes to business or your industry. You want to obtain mentors and coaches and things of that nature, just to kind of help guide you on your journey. And then, of course, have your friends and family tap in with you as well.
Mm-hmm. So many great resources in there. And folks also chimed in with other books and articles that were helpful from them in the chat. The 5 a.m. Club got some love. Grit by Angela Duckworth. There's another one. So awesome resources. And look at this. This is the community helping each other. What are you reading? What are you working on? This is the network that one of your networks that Toni is talking about. Like, this is a great opportunity. And then there's so many other resources that Toni's sharing with us. So thank you, Toni.
Absolutely.
Okay, friends, we got more questions and a little over half an hour. So this is so good. Here we go. What are some tips for starting a business on a budget? How do you navigate financial insecurity as a marginalized person who does not have generational wealth? I want to take the leap, but I essentially live paycheck to paycheck.
This particular question resonates with me because, man, 5 years ago, this was me. I had a product that I believed in, but I was absolutely paycheck to paycheck. What I would do first and foremost, and I know I keep harping on this, but I think it's a critical piece to understand, is really getting to know yourself, identifying your strengths, and build on your skills. You can leverage that expertise, that talent, that knowledge that you have, and parlay that into income producing situations. You want to plan and research your idea so that you'll know what manufacturers you'll be able to work with that have the best costs associated with that particular product or service. Work out a budget. 1 month a budget, a 3-month budget, a 6-month budget. Understand exactly what your costs associated with marketing and inventory and materials, like right down to the penny, and then adhere to it. Stick to that budget. Only buy what you need. I remember when I first started out, I went gung ho with Vistaprint. I had every banner, business card, flyer, and really I didn't need all of that. It's just it was fun and it was a waste of money. Unless you really need it at the time that you need it, right? What most folks shy away from or are not really tapping into is the freebies, the discounts, the coupons. If you are looking to create visibility for your business as an emerging business or a startup, start with the social media platforms. It's absolutely free to create an account. And a lot of the times when you're looking to boost a post or create that visibility, they'll have incentives for you to tap into their platforms. And so I would really do a lot of research around that. And then in regards to just garnering more income to kind of put into the business, give away some of your time if you're able to. Pick up a second job. I did DoorDash and Uber Eats, right? And any monies that I made from that particular stream of income went directly into the business. And I didn't have to utilize my paycheck every 2 weeks or twice a month or whatever the case, the frequency is. I wouldn't have to tap into that. I would just utilize what I made on the side. And then, there comes some sacrifice. So just a number of things to consider if you don't have the monies or the funding to really tap into the business and you are paycheck to paycheck. There are tons of resources and opportunities out there for you to have some wiggle room to facilitate those goals that you have for your business.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing about your personal experience there. And it's really inspiring to hear, like, this is the nuts and bolts of how Toni did it. It's really, truly beautiful. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On a related note, and someone asked, Gia asked, are you aware of any grants or funding available for minority women that want to start a business?
That's a great question. And what I will say is I don't have any at the top of my head right now, but we have tons of resource partners and types of organizations that cater specifically to women-owned businesses. And if you would like, I'll be more than happy to drop my information down in the chat. I think it'll be shared on here, and I am available to take a call so that we can kind of flesh out what those grant opportunities may be in your area, because sometimes it's specific to your location. But I'll be more than happy to sit with you and kind of walk through the steps of finding those opportunities. So just let me know.
Amazing. An amazing invitation that I encourage you to accept. Toni knows what she is talking about. Okay, friends, we're almost at the half-hour mark, so keep those questions coming. This is going so great. Thank you for your participation. Next question up is, what are some options for securing cash to start a business? Should you continue employment while starting a side business? We kind of just touched on that one, didn't we?
We touched on it, but if I can just expound a little bit more, just to kind of drive in this point, it's completely your personal decision on whether or not you choose to stay or go in full time. I would recommend personally keeping your 9 to 5. Medical benefits, structured pay, security, things of that nature. And you just don't want to let that go without having some type of solid plan, right? In regards to funding, what I would do is start out with yourself. Always start out with yourself, right? Because a lot of the times that's the answer to your question or your issues. But how much funding can I afford to invest into my business, right? And I know a lot of lenders, my organization particularly, I know that we pose that question on our application. And it's not necessarily a deciding factor in terms of determining eligibility. However, it lets us know how much skin in the game you have. How much financially have you contributed to your own dreams, right? After you self-assess, then you want to tap into the next layer of your circle, which is family and friends. Those that know you have a really great concept or idea and that want to be supportive of that, you want to lean in on them. And then from that, you want to go to the next stage or the next layer, which are investors, right? There are tons of angel investors, silent investors that are looking for the new hottest commodity, service, or product. And they're looking for businesses such as yours or those ideas such as yours to invest in. Then after the investment or investors, then you want to look at those grant opportunities. See what's available for your particular industry. If you're a woman-owned business, veteran-owned business, low to moderate income, things of that nature, there are tons of grant opportunities, monies that are specifically set aside for your business, and you want to scout those out. And then finally, what I will say is after you've exhausted those grant opportunities, look into loans, lines of credit from lenders. You could go to big banks, you could go to organizations such as DreamSpring that are nonprofit and that cater to small businesses.
Yeah, well, that's great. I love that you go all the free monies first, check that if you can. And then what is another way to determine when it's the right time to ask for a loan, do you think?
I think personally, in regards to the list that I just spoke about, is when you've exhausted all of those other options. When you've exhausted, you don't have any more savings to tap into of your own. You've exhausted your friends and family. They're probably tired of you by now. Just a little humor there. I'm sure they're not. They're completely supportive. You've searched every investment opportunity, you've applied for the grants, then it may be time to explore other options such as a term loan or a line of credit. Another good indicator is if you're able to secure a contract of some sort. Or some type of really big job where you know that the results will be favorable. You just have to put up the money initially to be able to carry that out, whether it's buying inventory, hiring subcontractors and things of that nature. It may be time for you to look into a line of credit or short-term loans. What I will say is my organization, DreamSpring, we have a loan product that's specific to contractors in a couple of our states. And if you're able just to show us the signed contract that you have this in the works, we're able to help facilitate the costs that are associated, whether it be $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. And it's a very low cost, if not a 0% interest on that product. And so that is my suggestion. Exhaust all of the other options first, then lean in on the lines of credit and the term loans. Only when you absolutely have to, right? And you're able to have the cash flow to pay it back. Because we also want to make sure we keep in mind the financial wellness piece and that circle of life regarding the credit, especially when you get into business credit or a personal guarantee. Happy to flesh that out as well.
Love that. So great. Okay, can you let's see, someone asked, how can we develop an attractive economic profile for loans? Could you share some tips for defining a strong mission statement for our business?
That's a perfect segue from the previous question, starting with a good foundation. And the foundation that I'm speaking of is your personal credit profile, right? Understanding where your FICO is, A lot of the lenders are determining eligibility based on two primary factors, your FICO and cash flow, your ability to pay back the loan. And so I think that's where you definitely want to start, is by having a really solid foundation and building your way out from there.
Great, great, great. What types of loans would you recommend for small businesses? And could you elaborate on the different lending solutions that entrepreneurs might have access to?
Yeah, so for a small business, things that come to mind are, of course, term loans, which is where you receive a lump sum of money and you pay it back over a period of time, and there may be a fixed interest rate associated with that. There are SBA loans. The Small Business Administration provides low-cost loans, and a lot of folks tend to lean on those because they're government-backed. There are also business lines of credit. Essentially, you're approved for a particular amount and you're able to draw from it as needed. You could draw the whole thing all at once, or you could just take from it as needed, just as a backup. Then there's also commercial real estate loans. If you're looking to acquire a business or property or warehouse, you may look into that. And then there are something that's called a micro loan. Typically, it's where lenders provide loans $50K and under to small businesses, specifically startups, just to kind of help facilitate their funding needs and getting them the access to capital to get to their goals.
Those are awesome. Ashley from the chat asked, what is your advice to people who are in a single parenting situation wanting to become an entrepreneur?
My advice for that, that's a really good question, and I would love to flesh that out a little bit more with you. But what I would say is to keep your goals right here. Keep your goals, your vision right on the forefront, and allow your child or anything else that you hold dear be that motivating factor, that inspiration that you draw from, knowing that with the time and energy that I put into building out this dream, which can definitely be a reality, will be something that my child can then one day take over. It's creating that generational wealth, right? There will be long nights. There will be long days. There will be things that you don't understand. There'll be ups and downs, essentially, but you can absolutely do it. You just have to put the energy behind it, the research behind it, and line up your pieces. And remember to keep a really great network of folks. Relationship building is essential to success in a business. You want to make sure that you're cultivating those relationships with lenders, investors, community partners. You want to be on the receiving end of those conversations, because once you hear or you tap into or you overhear an opportunity, you know what I mean? So you just want to make sure that you're ready and available to seize every opportunity, and don't stop. Your mind is the limit. I don't say the sky. Your mind is the limit. Anything that you could think of, you're able to do it for sure.
Wow. Thank you for that. Okay. Charla asks, could you touch on deciding if your business idea is better for-profit or better positioned as a nonprofit? Can you talk about those differences, maybe on a general way? I imagine this is something you'd want to flesh out in a little more detail depending on the business.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some specifics there, but what I will say, generally speaking, it's kind of you evaluating your core values and what your business model, what you would like that to look like. your customer base. There are a number of factors that you would want to consider when determining whether to go for profit or or nonprofit arenas. Please take down my information because I would love to have a really detailed conversation with you regarding that, and also connect you to a partner of mine who actually specializes in that arena. And so feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so here's a great question. We were sort of talking about owning and managing our time a bit earlier. Could you recommend some resources for budget, financial planning on projects? What's your main advice for creating financial stability?
Yeah, so let's see, financial stability and budgeting, I think it goes hand in hand on the personal side and the business side. Once you're able to really get that solid foundation down on the personal side, I think it'll make for easier transition as you begin your startup, or even if you're in the emerging business stage. You know, I'm a pen girl. And I love a good notepad and a good pen to take down notes, figure out what's coming in and what's going out, if you will. Some folks love Excel. We have a love-hate relationship, Excel and I. But what I will say is a lot of folks are tapping into the more cloud-based systems. One that I've recently started to utilize about 6 months ago or so is an app, our platform called Mint. And it's beginner friendly, and it helps me to understand my budgets, whether it's on the personal side or the business side. It fleshes it all out, breaks it down into categories, and it really keeps you up on the straight and narrow, because it will let you know when you overspent even $1, or if you didn't adhere to the budget. QuickBooks, of course, is another great one that you hear tossed around a lot. There's also a Good Budget. I think there's a Honey. There's so many out there, and I'll be happy to cultivate a list for you and just share that out if you would like. But I know for certain, my personal go-to right now is an app called Mint, and that really helps to keep me in alignment and on the straight and narrow, if you will.
Yeah, nice. And that one can link directly to TurboTax, I think, if you use that too. So that can be helpful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked earlier about you know, really you told us how, you know, networking and keeping those conversations alive is really important. Someone asked, Megan asked, what are your tips you could provide about finding the right partners with different knowledge bases to begin a company?
I would probably, you know, in regards to finding those partners, I would start with social media, LinkedIn, joining those types of groups, those specific groups to, you know, your idea, your product or service. You're able to link up and find really, really great folks that are like-minded, that can help you in that arena. I would also tap into some of our your community partners on a more local platforms, such as your SCORE offices or small business development offices that can kind of link you up with people. Tap into events, networking events, making yourself visible. Learning not to be, you know, shy in a group of folks, but, you know, at least mustering up the strength and the courage, if you will, just to kind of ask posing those questions that will kind of help you get closer to the people who you need to be in the rooms with, who you need to be talking to help facilitate you starting your business or even scaling the business.
Great advice. We had a question from Karen. There it is. Karen asked, what are some of the most challenging parts of your journey? And I'll expand on that. What are some of the things you learned from some of the challenges to get you where you are now?
Oh my goodness, if I could go back, right?
Yeah, and if you want to give your past self a piece of advice, what would it be, Toni? I love that question too.
Yeah, I think I love the way you posed it. Is to slow down, and I may
Mhm.
be a jack of all trades, but learn to delegate. I think that was the lesson that took me the longest to learn, is I could not do everything in my business. I'm the creative, right? Um, I come up with the formulas. I can make the soaps and things of that nature. However, when it comes to social media marketing and audiences and things of that nature, when it came to, different arenas, it wasn't me. And I tried for the longest to show up in every area of my business, the accounting, the planning, the marketing aspect, the creative side, the ordering materials, and I just couldn't do it all. And it took me forever to learn that. I was completely exhausted. And it just put me in a bad place where I contemplated, okay, what am I doing wrong? Do I even want to keep this going? But it was only because I was trying to do everything, and I'm just one person. But if you delegate some of those responsibilities, some of those tasks out, it would definitely yield for a more favorable result. And that's so you're not exhausted. You can lean on someone else's expertise to help to get you to where you're looking to go. And so if that, I think that would be my number one thing if I could go back, and that's just to kind of relinquish me trying to have my hands in everything, because it just did not work out for me. And I quickly learned. I definitely learned.
Yeah, and it's such a valuable, challenging thing to learn that, and to circle back on our topic about, taking the leap of faith, part of that is trusting other people to do a job, right?
Right.
Like that is a leap of faith to be like, well, I'll just do it because and then there's the story that goes on, but it's a huge leap of faith to be like, okay, you're gonna help handle my baby now,
Uh-huh.
and it's huge.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I thought of it's my baby. Like, from inception to everything else you see, this is my baby, and I need for you to care for it just as I would. And there are a lot of individuals and folks out there who can definitely, tap in, and help you out. But yeah, just being comfortable in that space, I think would definitely help out for sure.
Yeah. For
Mhm.
me, it invites a level of humility that I've been learning to like get cozy with, to be like, oh, there's a lot of people that are smarter than me about lots of things. Maybe I should ask their help. And
Bingo.
then we get something better because I would never have thought of X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bingo. I completely agree.
Yeah. Someone asked a great question, especially for you as well, who had this idea, this baby inception idea that you were talking about. Is there, Laura asked, do you have any ideas on how to test an idea before launching it? So like you have this great idea, but you're like, I don't want like other people steal it, or is it going to work? And
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. You could keep your ideas under wraps, if you will. Um, the way that I move forward with testing my product or service is just to use family and friends first, right? Get their honest opinions. I utilize my family and friends to take pictures, critique as much constructive criticism as possible, because that's the only way that you will learn where your areas of opportunity or weaknesses lie. Then you can also branch out and go into, focus groups. that specialize in testing products. I'm sure that there will be some type of confidentiality waiver just to kind of make sure that your idea doesn't leak, if you will. And so, but I would definitely start with family and friends or put a call out to action to see who would be up for testing this product or service and providing your feedback on it. And so just a few directions you can go there.
Great advice. Okay, friends, we have about 10 minutes left. Someone asked, can you speak about the value of regular check-ins to make sure we're on track towards our goals? Do you have any advice on how to set these realistic goals? And regarding the check-in sessions, what should they look like? And I'll offer up, who should they be with?
Yeah, absolutely. And so check-ins are critical, whether on a personal note or professional note, right? And so I think for me, the purpose of a check-in is to check the tone of where we are currently, what has happened in the past, learning areas of opportunity where we could show up and do better with those tasks that we set out in the past. And it also provides us some leverage in terms of determining where we want to go moving forward. Those check-ins are critical. Now, who you're checking into, definitely you want to have somebody that's familiar with the business, if not completely involved and hands-on or have a critical role within the business. Or you want to check in with one of your mentors or your coaches, right? Just to make sure that you're adhering to the goals that you've set. And when you're setting those goals, I think a lot of you may be familiar with the acronym, the SMART goal platform, where you're making specific goals. They're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're timely. Meaning you can't want to make, what's a good example? You can't want to run a marketing ad, and not have an end goal in terms of how many impressions that you may make, or you want to make sure that you are setting those time frames so that you can have some information, results to be able to refer back to see what worked, what didn't work, what I can do differently. Was it a complete fail? Am I able to pivot from this? You want to set those tasks out and be very specific, set those expectations, and then adhere to them.
So important. And I've learned, as someone who is, has learned that, I have like a people pleaser in me and I want to get everything done speedy, and then I'm running late. It's well, if I set up, if I was using the SMART goal, a timely but also attainable and reasonable for me. So it's if I set up a date that maybe I'll give myself an extra week or an extra month or whatever it is for the project. People always like things if they're early, but nobody likes anything if it's late.
That's a fact. That's definitely, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head with that.
Okay. Okay, here's a great question. So what's one piece of advice you would give to folks that are considering leaving their 9-to-5 to embark on an entrepreneurial journey?
One piece of advice?
Some advice.
Just one. Okay. What I would say, in no particular order, but evaluate your reason why. What's your reason why? And is that is it a reason why that's sustainable? Because our feelings change from day to day, right? And so you want to make sure that your reason, your why, you can add some longevity to that, right? You also want to make sure that you have what it takes, really be honest with yourself. Am I going to show up and show out every day to make this work? Because that's what it's going to take. I truly am a firm believer that we can accomplish any and everything that our hearts desire, but it takes discipline. Like I said to my earlier point, the motivation will run out, the inspiration will come in and come out. But as long as you have the discipline to stay on task, adhere to your goals, you are bound to see the results that you're looking for.
It's so true. I mean, it is possible. We can attain anything and everything, but it does take discipline, because if you look at all the people in the world, there's all these amazing things that are happening. But like, athletes are waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they're starting their day, and it's like, it takes regiment, and we gotta, if we want it, we gotta work real hard for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing works but work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, friends. So we are gonna get real with Toni here for a sec. We asked some questions in advance when we were curious about how you would describe the culture over at DreamSpring in one word. You said connected. Would you like to elaborate on that a bit?
Absolutely. Moment of transparency again, because I just, it resonates with me. I was a social worker for the state of Texas for over a decade. And I think probably majority of the folks on here with us today have had experiences and organizations and companies that were, the environment was just less than stellar, right? And it kind of left unpleasant taste in our mouths, if you will. And so coming to DreamSpring was a reality check that there are organizations and businesses who really are concerned about their employees, how we feel, and they go out of their way to make sure that we feel completely supported and connected. The reason I said connected is because we are in alignment. We understand our core mission, our core values are in alignment, and we show up and we show out every day to help facilitate the dreams, hence our name, DreamSpring, of these entrepreneurs and these business owners. We are definitely connected.
I love hearing that. And when we asked you, what's your favorite part about working at DreamSpring? You said, we have a culture and environment that fosters collaboration and teamwork while recognizing performance and results. We're steadfast with our core values as a collective. And I love this too, because you mentioned earlier, I love you use the phrase of like, what's my why? And that connects back to what are my core values as well? Like, why do I want to do this? Well, if you go back, what's behind my why is my values, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's critical. It's a critical piece just to make sure that, whatever you're doing is in alignment with what you truly believe and what you hold true to.
Yeah. If you're open to sharing, I love when people let us in on knowing what are some of your core values, Toni?
Ooh, accountability. Which just means that I'm able to hold myself accountable even when it's not in the best light. Rising to the occasion, integrity, having, passion. Those are just, just to name a few. Being empathetic, and, practicing on a daily basis, inclusivity. To make sure that everyone around me feels completely supported and included in whatever task, rooms, conversations. It's important that everyone has a voice, and it's important to me to make sure that I help to garner that.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And when we asked, what are your top tips for someone who is interviewing, research and learn about the company, be yourself, sufficiently articulate and highlight your experience and send a follow-up thank you email. So smart. It's the little things.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Absolutely. They make a world of difference.
They really do, because people are, doing recruiters on Zoom. There's a million people they're talking to, and it's like, oh, Toni sent me a thank you. Oh, that's nice, that's
Uh-huh.
on the top of the list. It's like just happens that quickly.
Absolutely.
Well, Toni, this has been so fantastic. Thank you for making the time today. If people want to keep the conversation going with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Send me an email. You can reach me at tjohnson, JOHNSON, at DreamSpring, like having a dream, and spring like the season, .org. tjohnson at dreamspring.org. I am open to all questions, concerns. We can map out things. I am a coach. I can help you in several lanes. I'm just excited about helping you to move forward in whichever capacity you choose to do so.
Awesome. Awesome. Paloma just dropped your email in the chat there. Thank you so much, Toni. This has been so fantastic. I learned so much, and thank you from the friends listening and participating. Your questions were amazing. They were vulnerable, they were radical, they were practical, they were everything we would hope for in a chat and learn. So thank you so much. That was absolutely incredible. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And Toni, I hope we get to do this again.
I am completely game. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting us. And I look forward to every conversation that this session yields. So you all have a great rest of your